It's the Josh and Josh Talk Wrestling Podcast. My name is Josh, and with me as always, woo woo woo, you know it, it's Josh. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, what up, peeps? How you doing? All right. Hey,
yeah.
It was me, forklift operator. It was me. The forklift operator was a higher power all along. The forklift operator was a higher power all along.
So do you think like Roman Reigns is going to like power up and do Superman punch the forklift?
Hey, we'll talk about that later. But
we'll get there.
Let's hit up the hot box. Josh Talk Wrestling at gmail.com. Josh, what was our topic today?
Someone asked us. It was a pretty good topic. Someone asked us, what would it take for us to quit WWE? They were specific about WWE, so not wrestling. What would make us quit? Just turn our back on the product and just say, forget it.
For me, I think my first answer is nothing. I'm going to always watch WWE. It's always going to be a flag bearer, and I'm always going to find a reason to watch it because I like professional wrestling. I like the independent circuit. I like Impact Wrestling, ROH, New Japan. I like wrestling, so I'll always watch it. However, there might be one thing. Well, maybe two things. So one, I guess, and I actually stopped watching WCW Monday Nitro after a long time of this, but we're talking like the 2000 era. It got so bad where like every match was like ending in a DQ. I actually stopped watching Monday Nitro at that point. So I suppose if Raw, every single match ends in like a count out or DQ, then I'm done. Now I get like it's TV, it's free, it's kind of push the product, the storyline along. I get all that. But when it was like every single match of a Monday night card was just like a DQ count out. Nothing. No one was winning. Forget it. Like at that point, it wasn't telling a good story, and it was cheap to the viewer. WWE's always done a good job about trying to balance that. I think for the most part, they understand what's free and they understand what people are paying for. Of course, I guess that's a larger debate. I'd like to think that WWE has made the mark for the most part to get a good quality product out. That said, I think the one thing that would stop me from watching it anymore is if our Twitter-in-chief, Donald Trump, was part of Raw once again.
Oh, there you go.
Storyline-wise, during the recession, Vince McMahon had sold Monday Night Raw to Donald Trump, and then storyline-wise, he'd sold it back to Vince McMahon for 3 times as much. I think what it comes down to is that, politics aside, I'm just not a huge fan of Donald Trump.
Sure.
I don't get behind people that belittle minorities and they ridicule females and the whole laundry list of things. And again, I'm talking outside of politics, right? I'm a moderate person myself. I voted Republican. Right. I voted Independent. I voted Democratic. There's some fundamental things I really disagree with Trump on, and to have him involved back in wrestling, which would obviously be like a GM role of some sort. Right. And I'd like to think that Vince and WWE know a lot better. They know a majority of the wrestling demographic are not Donald Trump fans.
Oh, for sure.
Now, keep him in the Celebrity Wing Hall of Fame. That's fine. Whatever. I've mentioned this before. I will give credit where credit's due. Donald Trump has a lot to do with the success of WrestleMania.
Yeah, you can't argue with that.
Right. The first couple of WrestleManias, they used Trump Plaza and all that. And then WrestleMania 23 and on, that was much more of a spectacle. Before then, they would do WrestleManias at like Allstate Arena, which are like 16,000. Madison Square Garden, which is like, 22? But starting really with WrestleMania 23, the Battle of the Billionaires with Trump versus McMahon, that was a spectacle. That was Detroit Ford Field, and they've been having audiences of 80,000, 90,000, 100+ thousand since then. At WrestleMania. Right. So it's been a huge spectacle since. So I will definitely give Donald Trump credit for helping make WrestleMania. Now, there's a lot of hands involved, but he certainly had a hand in making part of it. WrestleMania successful. But to have him back as like a general manager role, it to me it says too much about the company that I maybe already know, but to me it would not be fitting, and that would probably be the one thing that would get me not to watch Monday Night Raw anymore, or WWE in general.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that. That would be like the cherry on top of the shit sundae that they've been building over these past few years, at least. I mean, for me, you look back at just like the awful things WWE's been doing lately, teaming with the Saudi Arabian government.
Right.
A government that was responsible for the murder of a journalist, and his only crime was, was voicing his opinion. And WWE just, came to the table and said, "Yep, no big deal." And then as more and more information, remember it was happening in real time. More and more information was coming out about this days leading up to Crown Jewel. And they say maybe they'll cancel it because, it's so tasteless and so awful to take money from this company.
Well, and especially you saw UFC. They dropped a $500 million deal.
A lot of companies cut ties. They said, no, this is too much. This is just too awful. No, WWE said, no, we have a contract and cash is king. And that's that combined with just other things that they've done in the past that are just so tasteless. Randy Orton telling Rey Mysterio that Eddie's in hell. And I understand this is a storyline, and the point is to be shocking, but there's certain things you just don't do, because Eddie Guerrero wasn't just some character you conjured up. Eddie Guerrero is a real person. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't, or you don't do things like that. Or having Dean Ambrose say that he's glad that Roman Reigns got leukemia or whatever.
Well, generally, I guess just to interject quickly, I mean, I would say if both parties agree to it, that's one thing. Because I mean, hey, Paul White, he made his father's death a storyline.
Yeah,
but that was his choosing.
Right.
I think to your point though about Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio and Randy Orton was that you didn't really have the buy-in of Eddie Guerrero.
I mean,
that's kind of the thing.
Exactly.
So it's like that's where it's not fair. But
well, I mean, and those are just small things. AJ Lee was just recently talking about how backstage the women are told no one will have sex with you. You need to sex yourself up and this and that. That's not the kind of, pro wrestlers shouldn't be told that. That's the kind of thing that prostitutes should be worried about, not pro wrestlers. And I understand that there's a certain degree of sex sells and things like that, but honestly, sometimes the question for me isn't what will it take to get me to stop watching WWE. Why haven't I already stopped watching WWE?
Interesting.
So, but here's the thing, like, am I going to cut off myself from content that I still do enjoy? Like,
right.
Chris Pratt, he's an asshole. He supports an anti-gay church, but it's not going to make me stop watching Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, that's the thing.
Tom Cruise is kind of in a way. Like, I saw the most recent Mission Impossible, and that movie was awesome.
Tom Cruise is an
but then you got to sort of separate.
That's the thing. Like, you got to be able to separate the art from the artist. But when we really weigh it with WWE, this steroids and just allegations and concussions and just deaths and just everything. Good God! But the thing is, I'm still watching. And I don't really have a real intention of stopping. That's the thing. I've talked about it on a previous podcast, how at the time Raw and SmackDown were just awful. It was just totally abysmal. And I said, hey, if this keeps up, I wouldn't mind just jumping ship to AEW if it keeps sucking.
And we're talking the lowest ratings in WWE history.
Oh, God.
Post WrestleMania.
So cratered. It's so crazy. But the things, I'm still going to keep watching it. But I feel like as long as you know that this is a horrible company and you recognize it and you try to almost, counteract it in your own way, I don't know. There's no clear answer here because we're hooked into the stream, man. Like, when you're a fan of wrestling, like, and it's just weekly and it's like 10 or 11 hours a week of WWE content alone,
right.
It's easy to just get hooked into it and get into a pattern of, well, I'm going to watch Raw at this point, and I watch SmackDown on this day, and then I'll watch this. And you just do this, and then you end up talking to your buddies about wrestling. So you get in this wrestling mini community, and then you go online, and you're a Facebook member, and, you got to keep up with what's going on. What happened to Roman Reigns just recently? Well, I got to watch the show, because this is my life now. Right. To a small degree. It's not, I don't want to make it sound like a cult, but you do get wrapped up in it. And so, like,
it's a story like any other show you'd watch, really.
Right? Well,
it's not like any other story,
It isn't,
it
isn't,
great,
right?
Right.
It's the same principles.
It's the greatest story.
But the fact that it's been an ongoing thing for 40, 50, 60 years, you could trace it back.
Right.
You don't want to quit that. And no matter how awful the company is, that's the thing, man. It's so crazy. They got us by the balls somehow, no matter how much. Like, Vince McMahon could, like, take a shit on, like, some kids or something, and we'd still watch it week to week. Like, you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Well, if they actually had evidence of that, I don't know that we could, just to be honest. And I think there'd be a lot of backlash. But I think what it comes down to is that we are enticed, we are motivated, and we follow the passion of the boys and girls that are pro wrestlers.
Right.
Especially in WWE. We understand their schedules.
Mm-hmm.
The saving grace is, for the most part, they are paid pretty well. But we kind of also understand there's a lot of contractual things like getting their own insurance, you know? So they might get paid pretty well. Also, I mean, when you're spending on medical bills, and really that's, if you get injured, you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
Unless, I'm sure if you're like John Cena, then sure, as part of the contract you're getting paid. But no, for the most part, if you're a pro wrestler, if you get injured, you're not getting paid.
Yeah, like the Leo Rushes of WWE. Can't count on that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, but I've been watching SmackDown recently, and Kevin Owens, I'm sort of seeing this just new energy, this awesome energy, and it's refreshing because I think that most of the workers you'll see in WWE, they are very passionate. In fact, most wrestling, I think, organizations around the world, not just WWE, but they're really passionate because you have to be nuts to do what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean,
and I said this before, the real fans are not you and I, are not the people sitting on their asses in the stands. The real fans are those that are wrestling between those four ropes.
Yeah. The guys who spend hours and hours in the ring, at the gym, working out, training, watching video.
They are the real fans.
Absolutely. I mean, this is not the kind of thing you just decide, I'm going to be a wrestler. You know, like you're going to be like a medical transcriptionist or something. No, man. You're dedicating your life. Well, the good ones are the ones who last.
Right.
You know, the ones that we're going to give a shit about in 10 years are the ones who made it their life. Yeah.
Well, and I say this all the time. Like, I make sure to make it really clear, I'm not a pro wrestler. I've wrestled 3 semi-professional matches, but I'm not a pro wrestler. In those 3 semi-professional matches, I was injured in every single one of them.
Oof.
Well, that's what happens with wrestlers usually on a nightly basis. Now, yes, you don't get injured. A true worker knows how not to get injured, but you're going to get hurt.
It's going to happen, yeah.
And you wrestle 300 days a year.
Yeah.
You're away from your family. Like, oh my gosh, doing this podcast, I'm away from my family right now, and I kind of miss them. But you know what? I'll get to see them another, 2 hours or so. Pro wrestlers, they may not see them for another month.
Yeah.
And they come back, they're banged up. They probably can't. They're getting their family are getting the leftovers, even though they're trying their hardest to be the best father, best mother they can be. It's tough. It's absolutely tough. So I think it's their passion is what keeps me watching wrestling.
Right.
I think we're all on the same page there. Where WB could do a lot better job of treating their employees.
Oh, that's
And that's what I hope. Hopefully, we're going to see with All Elite Wrestling, AEW, is that they are said to be fan friendly. They're going to give off seasons to wrestlers. They're going to keep this organization with the wrestler in mind. So hopefully, we'll see a change. And again, this is a bargaining chip for them.
Oh yeah.
They can't give. For example, they can't give the Good Brothers, Gallus and Anderson, $1 million contract like probably WWE is just to keep them on the sidelines. Well, now that the tag team champions, I shouldn't say that. So they're actually getting over. But that's the thing is like AEW can say we can't give you that money, but we can give you $100,000 and you guys get 4 months off a year. People be like, I've already got my money and $100,000 is still pretty good to do what I love.
Oh yeah. I mean, these established guys, a lot of them, if they're not pissing away their money, then they don't necessarily need it.
Right.
Like Jon Moxley, he just wants to wrestle. He just wants to do good wrestling.
Yeah.
And they're giving him that chance, and that's important for not just for AEW success, just the industry of wrestling as a whole.
Right. Well, that's a good thing too. It's so that's exactly right. So I don't know.
So it sounds like we love the wrestlers in spite of WWE. Maybe I'm not necessarily in love with WWE. But I love the people there,
Well, but I like not just the workers, but I like the production quality. I like all the sound stuff, all the technicians and whatnot. So all even the commentators too. I think that the whole experience I do enjoy. I just think there's some things higher up where they're obviously dangling carrots, and you'll see this at any company, mind you. But this especially where your body's getting thrown around. Usually, everyone mentally is getting thrown around, but usually physically you're okay when you leave work.
Right.
Not as a pro wrestler.
Oh gosh.
So you're putting up all this crap, and then you're getting your beat up in the ring as well. And again, you're on the road for 300 days a year. Yeah. That's a tough job, right? So, but no, I think that there's nothing that's going to keep me from watching wrestling, with the exception of again, if they went to like nothing but DQs and countouts. But again, even if our president were to be part of Monday Night Raw or SmackDown again, it probably would be enough for me not to watch it. Because I think it says it's saying quite a bit about the company. Although, you know what? I'll be honest, I'm somewhat of a hypocrite because, again, I'd want to tune in for the passion of the aforementioned worker. So I would be very torn. It would definitely something I have to think twice about the WB moving forward. Keep him in the Hall of Fame. And again, he's made his mark with wrestling. And I think for that, he should be deserving of maybe such an honor if you do have a celebrity wing. But I just don't think he belongs on TV with wrestling, with WB.
Absolutely not.
Thank you again for the question. Josh talkwrestling@gmail.com. Hit us up in the hot box. But Josh, let's talk about Raw Reunion. What were your thoughts on Raw Reunion?
Was it a joyous celebration of WWE legends or a sad reminder of our own mortality?
Well, I think it was a combination of both. The one, I think the most awkward part was when they had DX, NWO come out, and I don't even know why that Kevin Nash and Scott Hall come out as NWO. They could barely walk out. They were just wearing the T-shirts of NWO. I thought they were fans at first. Kevin Nash looked like he was just hurting. I'm sure he's got a torn quad or something, but it was nuts. Like I get that we all look older and whatnot, but at some point it was kind of like I might have used them in a backstage vignette.
Yeah.
Maybe with the Good Brothers or something, and had I would have maybe had NWO team up as far as with like the OC and have them like maybe like have a stare down between DX.
There you go.
But they kind of made NWO part of the DX, and it was just sort of confusing in a way. But I don't know. I mean, personally, if you're going to bring Hulk Hogan, I would have had them just do a la WrestleMania 31, had them come back as NWO Black and White.
Oh, there you go.
And maybe a backstage vignette or something. But, it was for the most part, it was great. It was good for nostalgia. I'm a sucker for nostalgia. I thought they incorporated a lot of legends. They actually did. It was a heck of a reunion show. Overall, it was a fine show. It did help ratings. It did what it was supposed to do. But yeah, there are some things where it was just
a little tired. It felt a little tired.
Well, it's because they've done it again and again and again. Raw 25, Raw 20. They're all carbon copies of each other. And that's kind of the thing. It's like, I don't know that they needed to have a Raw reunion show. It was good they did, but I don't know that they needed to because they've kind of had it so many times before.
That's for sure.
Good to see all the faces. Again, I'm a sucker for nostalgia.
Yeah.
Stone Cold had a pretty good tie-in at the very end. I sort of like that moment. Although, I think the one thing they could have done, the one thing that would have made this show awesome, is they had Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan toasting in the ring at the very end, and out of nowhere,
oh, yeah.
Stone Cold stuns Hogan.
That would have been
awesome.
That would have been good.
And this could have been, hey, Hogan could have sold it. At the very end, Hogan gets up. He's like, fixing his jaw, selling it, and they go in for a hug and stuff. And they leave it at that.
There you go.
I think that's how they could have ended it. It would have been better. The fans would have been more go home happy. Even more go home happy after that. It was interesting. So I read somewhere Scott Hall, they'd kept some people outside the ring to, I guess, not promote any type of like behavior because they had Scott Hall on the outside of the ring at the very end. He wasn't allowed inside the ring.
Oh.
Or was asked not to be in the ring because they were drinking beers and all that. But to me, it's almost like, what's 4 feet?
Yeah.
And I hope it was one of those things maybe Scott Hall said, hey, I'd rather do this rather than WWE force him. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. But it was they had a couple wrestlers like that. Oh, yeah, sort of on the outside. I know Sean Waltman, I think, was another one too. But, I think hopefully it was their choice. And if it was, that's a smart decision.
I guess. I didn't really think about it. I don't see why it matters. I mean.
Well, yeah, it was interesting, but again, it might have been their choice, which is kudos to them. But yeah, no, again, it was one of those where it was a good show to see. I feel like they do it so much. There's Raw 25 and Raw 20 and Raw 1000.
Yeah.
It's just gets.
You know what I would have liked to have seen instead? Raw Old School again. Do another Raw Old School. I loved Raw.
And they could have Kevin Nash come out as Diesel or something.
Yeah, they could have done stuff like that. That would have worked out, I think, maybe a little better.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or actually see like Razor Ramon, that type of thing.
Right.
So no, again, it was good to see all the familiar faces. I just feel like it's a tired plot line. But hey, how about Roman Reigns?
Attacked by an unknown assailant, later revealed to be a forklift.
Well, okay, yeah. So for anyone that didn't watch SmackDown, essentially Roman Reigns was going to announce who his SummerSlam opponent was, and then out of nowhere, it appeared that I don't know, it was like some structures fell on Roman Reigns. They weren't sure exactly what happened. Turns out, WB has reported a few things. One can speculate that Samoa Joe had something to do with it. They are currently feuding. The other was that WWE had released a still image of Buddy Murphy walking away. However, their official stance is that it was a forklift operating incident that is why the structure fell on Roman Reigns. Personally, I think I agree with Dave. This is probably building up for a Daniel Bryan Roman Reigns feud at SummerSlam. They got to act quick. It's only a week away.
Yeah.
But I mean, here's the thing: you got Roman Reigns, you got Daniel Bryan. They don't have any positions on the card.
Yeah.
It makes the most sense to put them together.
That's a good point. It's just this is how you do it. This is very strange.
Well,
like they did a thing, right? They could have just kept it open as who tried to kill Roman Reigns, basically. Instead, WWE makes sure to put a big boot on and stamp all over that possibility by not once but twice clarifying they made the original announcement on WWE.com, saying a preliminary investigation, found that it was caused by a forklift backstage carrying lighting grids that were not properly secured. But then later they updated the story and said it has now been determined that the incident in question was specifically caused by a forklift driver, as if to really hammer it home. Like, why would you do this?
Right.
Who does this? This is not Paul Heyman's doing. This is not Bischoff. Like, this is the writing of a madman.
Or is it?
I don't see how this could be set up to be Daniel Bryan, unless like there's like photos on Instagram of Daniel Bryan polishing his brand new forklift or something. It just, the connection doesn't jive. I mean, maybe they'll figure something out, but I feel like this is just going to be like another lockbox that never went anywhere, or another Kurt Angle's mysterious phone calls that kind of fizzled out later. Like, like where they don't
GTV.
really... Yeah, like they don't really know where they're going with it. So they're like halfway there. Like they made the movie poster before the movie. So, I don't know. I mean, prove me wrong, sure, but it's just... This is bizarre, man.
I get what you're saying, but I'm going to hold out and see where they go with this. I'm wondering if actually Buddy Murphy had something to do with it. And it's kind of like the whole Rikishi Triple H thing where Triple H had talked Rikishi into hitting Stone Cold Steve Austin. So maybe it's a situation where Daniel Bryan's announcement is that his new companion is part of his group is Buddy Murphy. And then the dots start connecting, and it was actually Buddy Murphy who set up Roman Reigns. So.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. It's just my whole thing is why release that statement? Why do that?
Well, to me, it's almost like they've got to get going because, I mean, they have a week before SummerSlam, and I guess they have 2 shows, but still, that's not much time to really develop this out.
This statement doesn't add anything. It trounces on any, you know what I'm saying?
But that's what I'm saying. Or
pours
does it?
water on the fire.
There might be a payoff, though. There might be a payoff. You're right. To me, it would be like, if I was looking to generate awareness, I might go with a whodunit angle.
This is like the opposite of what you do, This
right.
is, I don't know. We'll see.
You're right. Well, you're right. Because I think that we're sort of like always, as wrestling podcast journalists, we're always sort of looking at this hall of mirrors, so to speak.
Right.
So we're looking at this like, oh, yeah, okay. I think they're going to spin this. Maybe. But the casual fan might be like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to tune in then. You just told me as a forklift driver.
Right.
Why would I think to tune on Monday and see what happened?
Yeah, they just kind of said, oh, no mystery here, nothing to see here.
So I kind of mention what I think Daniel Bryan's announcement could be. What do you think it is? I don't think it's a retirement.
I don't know. There were headlines that I didn't click on. See, that's the funny thing about what we do. Do you want to read the leaks so you're informed of what's going on, or do you want to not read the leaks and try and stay like a fan? So anyway, but I saw something, and apparently the implication, according to the headlines I'm seeing, is that it's career altering if this leak is true. So I don't think that they would tease his retirement in such a crass way, though.
Well, that's why I'm thinking the Buddy Murphy, because this is career altering for Buddy Murphy.
What could it be? What would have Daniel, it's been how he's been trying to do this announcement for 3 weeks now?
Right.
So what could it be that he isn't he's basically not able to muster up the courage to talk about? So what could it be?
Right.
I don't think it'd be any kind of real retirement thing. I don't think they'd ever do that. Can you imagine them teasing Edge's retive speech for 3 weeks? That'd be all, They just wouldn't do that. So it's got to be something kayfabe. But I have no clue. I'm really interested. I hope it's something that actually goes somewhere.
It could be they're expecting again or something. Who knows? So it could be something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I keep thinking with maybe there's a way that they're going to siphon in Buddy Murphy and make this the sort of career altering. It's not my career it's altering. It's Buddy Murphy, and Buddy Murphy's now part of this clique,
right,
so to speak. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, you're right. I don't think it's a career altering situation where it's like he's going to retire.
Right.
But this is kind of a good storyline, sort of like where they're going with this. But I kind of feel somehow with the Roman Reigns incident and Daniel Bryan's announcement, those are it's part of a larger storyline, right?
Okay, I liked in the old days where a lot of the storylines would intersect and they cross over and things. It really made things feel alive and not separated,
Right.
So yeah, here's hoping there's kind of an overarching thing. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. No. Speaking of, I don't know why I said speaking of. This is completely off topic, but Dolph Ziggler, Goldberg.
Yeah.
You ready for that squash match?
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's one of those where it's like I don't hate Goldberg. I mark out for him.
Yeah.
I also realize he's a little bit older, so he can't move like he used to.
Right.
Dolph Ziggler, of course, I'm a huge fan of, but it's a situation where it's like they're not going to have an actual wrestling match. They're not.
No, they can't.
It's going to be a squash match.
Yeah, after what happened last time, WWE is going to want to handle it in a very specific way to make sure that Goldberg doesn't look weak. Goldberg himself probably feels guilty or he feels bad about it. All the greats, usually they're like, I want to kind of redeem myself.
There's more that came out after the fact that we realized it wasn't just their problem.
His concussion and everything. Yeah, I mean, are you talking about that or?
Well, yeah. And here's the other thing too. Well, I think also the fact that WWE had sort of thrown this together.
Yeah.
They just wanted to sign him really quickly.
They just rushed it through.
Yeah, they didn't give him time to train and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we're going to see a squash match. I mean, at this point, Goldberg lost to Undertaker. That's a big deal. Goldberg's a 5-loss record.
Yeah.
I mean, let's see. He's lost to Kevin Nash, Bret Hart, Triple H, Booker T, actually, and Brock Lesnar. And there you go. I guess we've got Undertaker now. So that's six
pretty
losses.
Good company.
6 losses. See, only 6 losses. And this is what, a 20-year-long career? That's pretty darn good.
That's impressive, yeah.
Right. So they got to make him look good again. They got to make him look strong. He's going to just come right out of the gate, boom, spear him, 1, 2, 3. That's that.
Probably.
It'll put butts in seats, though. People like Goldberg.
That's the funny thing. It's like, they'll come out for a 3-second match, and they'll still cheer, and they'll still say it was a great time.
Yeah, although he'll be in better shape, though, because, now this is some months later.
He's
had some time to prepare and whatnot. So what do you think about Lesnar versus Rollins?
Man, this is getting so tiring. You
almost, just to kind of jump back, I'd rather see Goldberg versus Lesnar 4 and see Rollins versus Ziggler.
Yeah.
For the Universal title.
Yeah, there you go.
But here we are.
I don't know, man. This is just so tiring. I just want this to be over.
You think Lesnar's going to go over? I think he's going to go over.
I think he's going to go over, probably. They just keep slapping the belt on him. It's as if Vince McMahon literally gets like a $10 million cash transfusion every time Brock Lesnar holds the belt. It's just bloop. I'm so tired of this. Like, even Rollins, I love Rollins, but like his promos lately, like making fun of Lesnar, saying he's red-faced and all this cheesy stuff. Like, what are we doing, guys? I'm of course going to root for Rollins because I like Rollins a lot better.
Well, we want an anti-hero. He's too domesticated right now. We like the anti-heroes like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Mm-hmm. Becky Lynch is actually doing a pretty good job blending those lines. But Rollins is becoming too babyface. And when you're talking about burning it down, that's not a true baby. That's not a mega babyface. Right? That's an anti-hero.
I mean, give me the guy who tore apart the Shield. Give me the guy who built the Shield and then tore it apart.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and then rebuilt it again.
Yeah, well, I blame this Bollins, Becky and Seth thing, Bollins, for this. Like, I feel like now WWE is starting to overproduce Rollins, at least. Like, Becky still seems fine. In fact, she was talking about this on Twitter, apparently, talking about how she didn't want her relationship to be a thing in the kayfabe world. And, of course, it so is.
Yeah. Well, and I think that with Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, I actually think they're producing Seth Rollins to tone it down to have a greater light on Becky Lynch. But to me, I feel like you could do both. You could have could have an anti-hero and an anti-heroine. So who cares? I think you could have both. There's enough room at the top, especially when you have world titles, multiple world titles to play with.
I'd say just stop booking them in these like cute couples matches. I don't know. It seems the way they approach it in this PG era, it's just too sappy. Like they're really trying to hit that like, hey, your girlfriend can watch this too now kind of attitude. You know what I mean? Like sometimes.
Well, and they should. I mean, 40% of the demographics are women, so they should definitely cater to women.
It's true, but I feel that women deserve better. Like it's like a cheap romantic comedy versus like a well-made romance movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, it's getting there. You're seeing the main events. The women had the main event at WrestleMania. You're seeing the no more bra and panty matches and all that.
They've made great strides.
Yeah, you're seeing this evolution. So the evolution is alive. It's kicking in. It is a real thing. But yeah, to your point, I think that you're right. I think that we should never. That's the thing. As an entertainer, you should never treat your audience like they're idiots. And I think they want to see an anti-hero because an anti-hero saves the day, but also tells the truth.
Yeah,
that's why people they like Stone Cold Steve Austin so much. He was a blue collar, down on his luck at times guy, but always figured a way out. That's the American optimism for you right there. And then he started fighting his boss.
Oh, yeah.
Most working people want to punch their boss, or at least had a boss they want to punch at some point in their career, right?
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, I think it's that type of like connection. And I think Becky Lynch has, but I really think that they're basically produced Seth Rollins not to do it as much, or they produce him in a way where he doesn't have to be the burn it down type of guy. But that's what the character is based on. That's what they have to get back to. That's especially what they have to get back to with Brock Lesnar, and they haven't.
Good luck.
Right. So, but I'll tell you one match I'm really looking forward to, although I think Kofi Kingston will go over, is in fact Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton.
That's always exciting.
I'm glad they actually. This is something I think we mentioned this at one of our other podcasts. Randy Orton had been holding Kofi Kingston back at one point. He was over, and the crowd is with him. The whole storyline they're pitching right now actually did happen. So this is not kayfabe. Like Kofi Kingston was over with the crowd, but then out of nowhere, the next week he was just yanked out of it. It sort of kind of came. Randy Orton was in Triple H's ear and pretty far up the chain, and he had a long contract of sorts, which I think is just getting renewed this year. It was like some 10-year contract or something. I mean, most wrestlers are like maybe 1, 2, 3, or 5. Yeah. very, very seldom are you 10. I think Bret Hart's one of the few people that were 20.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll talk about The Undertaker later.
Right.
But anyway, there's a lot of truth in that where Randy Orton did hold Kofi Kingston back, didn't want him, didn't think he was ready. So I'm glad they're actually bringing the storyline back because it's going to tell a great story. Plus, you got two really darn good workers.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great match.
Yeah.
You're going to see probably 4 RKOs out of nowhere. You're going to see 19 Trouble in Paradises out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a great match
It's gonna
all
be a good
around.
match, yeah. Oh, yeah. Randy Orton, he always comes across as the kind of guy who, like, he could wake up and then go right to the gym and just wrestle. He's just instantly ready. He's just instantly on.
Third generation wrestler. This guy has been in the ring since he was a baby. Yeah. I mean, he was born to be in this business.
Oh,
and he is a terrific wrestler. That's the thing is you cannot take anything away from him. From what I understand, there's a lot of stories about him not being the best person.
Oh, yeah.
Per se, but if we're just looking at pro wrestling, goodness, I mean, it's just the connection, the whole Viper, RKO, and even when he was the Legend Killer, he just had that arrogance about him.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I think it was because he's just such a good wrestler.
He's a good wrestler. He comes from a wrestling family, so of course he's got that elitist attitude already.
Yeah, he was born for the business, but that should be a great match.
He's earned it, Yeah.
What do you think about Styles versus Ricochet?
I love Ricochet. I think he's terrific. I think they need to get rid of the sound effect, the ping sound effect.
Yeah,
in his
I don't
entrance.
like that. Ping, ping.
Yeah, like it's just like
ding,
he doesn't need all that. If you watch a Ricochet match, you'll understand what's awesome about Ricochet. You don't need this silly preamble to try and hype you up. It's like you'll get hyped from watching the match.
Right.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
He'll go over?
Ricochet, I think this could be his time, and the reason I say that is because...
Go over again, I should say?
Yeah, I think he could because Styles doesn't need it, and he's with the OC. Right. So it's like they're not trying to push him as just a solo guy. They're trying to push the team. And I think the team can absorb the hit and Ricochet.
Have a rematch on the following Monday Night Raw and then give it back to AJ Styles, maybe.
Oh, gosh.
Well, Summerslam, they do put people over. So, I mean,
they do.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you, man. I think that Ricochet will go over, but I guess a question of whether or not he's ready for it, which is why they took the belt off him in the first place. Or maybe it's just time to give to AJ Styles to get some heat, and also you got to take care of a lot of heads.
Yeah.
In WWE, you got to take. I mean, this is also AJ Styles, who deserves to have a title like I don't know once a month.
That's the thing when you got such top tier guys.
Right.
But yeah, Styles is more established. So
are you looking forward to Charlotte beating Trish Stratus?
I'm not real big on Charlotte. I like her. I think she's very talented. Yada yada yada. But I think she's just kind of bland. She's just the I'm Ric Flair's daughter kind of thing. I mean, I'm looking forward to it, I guess. I like Trish Stratus. Yeah, she's not going to win, of course. So, yeah, it'll be all right.
Well, she could. What's interesting is most wrestlers go out sort of putting someone over.
Yeah.
Trish Stratus, her last match was winning the 7th women's title in Toronto.
Yeah.
So it's like that's usually unheard of. Most people are putting themselves, over someone else, especially in their hometown, to get that heat and to really have that impact of going over a hometown hero. So they very well could, but to me that would just totally just take any steam that Charlotte Flair had out.
Fizzle her out.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a chance they can actually really, really hone in, crown, continue to build on top of her. To your point, I will say there's a bit of blandness to Charlotte Flair at times. Although here's the thing, she does get better year after year after year. She's gotten better and better. But maybe that's something where they could maybe use a few more liberties and not talk about how I'm just the queen, or I'm also just I'm Ric Flair's daughter. Although that's what kind of Ric Flair did. That was Ric Flair's gimmick, was talking about himself.
Yeah. It works for her sometimes to a degree. You got to find that right balance. I mean, when she debuted, Jesus Christ, Ric Flair was there like every step of the way in the corner of every match of hers. And then
always crying.
Yeah.
Like she'd win via count out in like a 6-woman tag match. He'd be crying. It'd be on a kickoff show. He'd be crying. Like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
It was on a main event. Saw a house show once. And just crying,
But they slowly transitioned away from that, and now they don't mention Ric Flair.
Well, and they gotta really keep building her up, because here's the thing, she will break all the records. I always thought that John Cena, they might just make him like a 22-time champion just to have that title, because here's the thing, Ric Flair, even though Ric Flair and John Cena are officially 16-time world champions, which is considered the greatest of all time, Ric Flair actually, if you include all the AWA titles and whatnot, is actually closer to like a 21-time champion. So to me, it's like have Charlotte Flair just shatter any records, have her be the first ever 25-time world champion. She's already on their way there. She's almost she's like a 9 or 10 time. 8.
She's getting there. She's real close.
I think she's 8. Yeah. So I mean, she's already up there. She's like a third of the way up there. What do you think about Becky versus Natalya?
Yeah, like that just came out of nowhere. You're like, here's Natty. You're like, oh, okay.
She's deserving though. She's a veteran. She's deserving.
But it's just
it's
kind of
gonna tell a good story though. it didn't come out of nowhere because Natalya is really good friends with Ronda Rousey.
Okay.
And,
true.
I mean, they actually keep in pretty good contact. So I would not be surprised to see Ronda Rousey show up, knock her out, and cost Becky Lynch the title to Natalya.
Get back at her finally.
Hey.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, it'll still be a good match. Who doesn't like Natty? As long as she's not farting, it'll be fine.
Hey, she actually brought up a really good point. In fact, I think Regal mentioned this too, William Regal, in that when you're in the WWE, you have to be prepared to do anything.
Yeah,
and Natalya Hart, she was given that. She probably hated doing it, but she's like, hey, I got TV time. It's exposure. Yeah. I'm going to sell it.
And Vince liked it, so that's always a plus.
You got to sell it. I mean, that's the thing. Like, they could give you whatever you need. So, again, I mean, it's a situation where look at her now. She's main eventing SummerSlam because they gave her chicken crap, and she turned it into chicken salad. But yeah, I think it'll be a good match, but hey, we could see Ronda Rousey come out of nowhere. Bayley versus Ember Moon. This is one that I think it's another one of those. This is actually where you mentioned before, Becky versus Natty kind of came out of nowhere. I actually think Bayley versus Ember Moon came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm glad it came out of nowhere. I think Ember Moon needs to be over. She needs to be.
Yeah. It's about time she started really getting in on the spotlight. Right. I mean, her promo work needs work, but give her that spotlight. I mean, she was a pretty big fish in NXT from what I remember.
Well,
she can be a main eventer. That's for sure. Eventually, she'll get there.
Well, she's played well with everyone, and she's worked her ass off. And no, I think that her promos could use some work. I could say that about a lot of workers though. But I mean, she's sound. I mean. She gets her pop when she comes out. People are excited. She has a great entrance.
Yeah.
She's got a great look about her, and she's an awesome worker. She really is, and she's something different too.
Yeah.
She's something different, a whole different niche that we haven't seen before. So I actually hope Ember does go over. It's interesting because this whole Bayley thing, it's like they realized that they made a mistake a couple years back in Extreme Rules when she was in an Extreme match with Alexa Bliss and didn't use the kendo stick. People started hating her after that. Like, this is crap. This is not realistic.
Yeah.
We get you're a good person, but in a hardcore match, you would have used it if you had to, which is actually one of the reasons why I like Kylie Ray so much. Kylie Ray from who was in AEW, but now part of AEW, was that she was able to take the Bayley character a little further.
Yeah.
So she does come out, does the whole like thumbs up, and whatever, and is really happy and giddy. But she has this every once in a while in her matches, and usually about once in a match, I think. Well, she has this thing in a match where she'll Hulk up, so to speak.
Right.
She gets ticked off. She does the 180, becomes defiant, just like flips back, and it's one of those hell hath no fear as a woman scorned, type situations. So that's why I actually like where Kylie actually goes there. She knows who the character is, but she actually goes that extra mile where you have to get pumped up.
Right.
And that's a connection between fans. We're like, oh my gosh, I'm with you, Kylie. We can do this. But Bayley didn't do that. Bayley didn't provide that connection to us. So, but it seems like that, she's kind of had this whole thing where, I'm all done with the hugs and all that. And she has kind of got this sort of smiley anti-heroin thing going on with her, so we could see something, but I don't know. I think it's SummerSlam is the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. Bayley's already over. This is a chance to put Ember Moon over, in my opinion.
Yeah, she needs it. Bayley will be fine. I mean, she can't get any worse than wherever she is now.
Right.
So yeah, give it to Ember.
I expect KO is going to retain his job over Shane McMahon.
That's the funny thing. Like, there's no stipulation for if KO wins. Like, Shane doesn't step down or anything. It's
the
just
stipulation he gets to fight.
Yeah.
Shane McMahon in the ring.
That'll be cathartic, I think.
The thing about it is they could pull a 180 out of nowhere and have Shane McMahon win. It would generate some heat. But the problem is that a lot of people are making the argument that Shane McMahon should not be on TV. He's taking TV time away. I disagree. I actually think he's putting a lot of people over. That said, if he goes over Kevin Owens at a SummerSlam, then I have a problem with that.
Oh, sure.
As long as he's putting people over, I think it's good. But
that makes sense.
I was really worried for a while there when they were talking about Shane McMahon versus Kofi. I'm like, I just suddenly saw Shane McMahon as the WWE champion. I'm like, oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, that might be something to get me to stop watching.
But Fiend versus Balor. I'm assuming the Fiend's going to go over, and then we'll see the Survivor Series, the Fiend versus Demon King.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, this is going to be his first. Well, I mean, he's been technically inside of the ring before, but he hasn't wrestled in the ring. Yeah. I mean,
do you think his skill set will be different? That's something you've actually made a really valid point about Finn Balor. I wish his skill set was different as Demon King. Do you think we'll see a different skill set with Bray Wyatt?
I feel like the way they've really built up this character with the Firefly Funhouse bits and everything, and you've even had the fight. Like I'm sure you probably noticed in other people's backstage segments, you'll see like the doll pop up in the background or whatever. So they're really, really working hard on this. So I'd be surprised if he didn't have some new tricks. Like Sister Abigail's still around, but maybe there's Brother Tony. I don't know, something. Give me something other than just a mask and your striped pants Because like I already said, that costume doesn't really do it for me. You got to do something else to differentiate yourself, to make this whole thing worthwhile.
See, to me, it is doing. I actually like it. To me, it's doing it for me. But what happens when you can't? When you have to wrestle A with that mask, and B, you don't have the lights and the music.
Right.
You're not as scary. Sound, it looks kind of like a Walgreens Halloween mask, you know?
Right.
So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to, is seeing how they make that adjustment. Or maybe he just takes the mask off and he's just got like paint or something over his face.
I'd say that's probably more realistic. Like, there's a reason you don't see the Predator just walking down the street in broad daylight in the movies.
Right.
So yeah, they gotta figure something out to keep that mystique of the Fiend, you know, and maybe there'll be a twist, and we'll just have Happy Bray come out wearing his little sweatshirt and just, you know, his brown pants, and he just waltzes to the ring. Who knows? It's gonna be very interesting to see how they pull this off, because you know, like we mentioned before in the Firefly Funhouse, one of the skits, it said, "Abandon all hope, ye who leave here." So Bray knows that this is kind of in booking's hands and Vince's hands more, so here's hoping they handle it properly.
Well, you know, and Lance Storm brought this up during an interview too, and I think we as fans kind of picked up on it. Essentially, the Funhouse is talking about a lot of the inner workings of WWE.
Right.
I mean, we're really glad that you're our friend. This is a relationship that will never end.
Right.
I mean, really, you think about the Raw reunion show.
Yeah.
Even though they're not under contract, quote unquote, WWE, if you want to be a Hall of Famer, if you want to be a legend, keep making that money, you're going to be our friend
you're
forever.
On call, yeah.
All right. So Roman Reigns versus the Forklift. I'm going to go with Forklift on this one.
I think so. I mean, Reigns has the speed, but Forklift has that power. Like, remember what happened with The Rock and Mankind? That Forklift came to assist.
Right.
Man, it was rough.
So getting back to it, do you think that Daniel Bryan will be the opponent for Roman Reigns?
I think that's the only thing that really makes sense.
What about Samoa Joe? What will he do?
Well, that's true. Maybe they'll be in cahoots. Because remember that Samoan Summit? Fan-freaking-tastic.
Yeah.
So it's weird because, like, there's so many loose threads. There's that big patch of what they're going to do to tie all this together. Right. If they have to tie Daniel Bryan's announcement together with Roman Reigns' attacker somehow, how are they going to pull this all off?
I almost see a 6-man tag with Roman Reigns and the Usos taking on Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe, and Eric Rowan.
Okay.
But no. I mean, overall, again, it's one of those where I'm looking forward to SummerSlam, but it's like kind of interesting. It's a week away. But yeah, it's only like a week away. So
I don't know. It feels like it's really snuck up on us. Or is it just me?
Actually, they've kind of goofed up on this before. I remember WrestleMania 13. The main event was decided the Monday Night Raw before. You know, I thought that was a long time ago, and I feel like they've done a lot more long-term booking with you know, with some changes here and there at the end and whatnot, or rewrites as we heard. But like as far as for a number 2 pay-per-view, that seems kind of off. But you're right. It's kind of snuck up on us.
Yeah.
I feel like they're sort of just kind of sticking things here and there. Like they haven't announced Ziggler versus Goldberg yet officially.
Yeah. So,
really.
I mean, right now it's still officially Miz versus Ziggler.
Right.
There's gonna be some kind of hijinks that's gonna change that, I guess.
And that's where I was really. I kind of wanted to see Ziggler versus HBK. I like that promo. It could have been a way for him to go out on top, maybe, or redo it. But yeah, you're right. It was a really good promo between Shawn Michaels and Dolph Ziggler. But I'm guessing that HBK had a lot of things going on with the NXT and so on and so forth. But speaking of NXT Breakout Tournament, what are your thoughts on that, man?
That was really. It was really fun. You know, I'm sort of a lapsed NXT fan. I need to get back into the swing of things.
Well, it's 11 hours of TV a week.
Yeah. Oof.
It's hard to keep up with everything. And this is just WWE.
Yeah,
not counting Impact or ROH or soon to be AEW.
Yeah. So I'll try to get back if I could squeeze more time out. But it was exciting to me because I didn't have to worry about anybody's backstories or anybody's history. Everybody's fresh in this tournament.
That's a good way to look at it.
So I said, okay, I just get to watch some cool wrestling and everybody's new. I was really impressed by a few folks like Dexter Lumis. Anybody who doesn't remember, he's the military-looking guy with the jeans. He has wrestling jeans. Like his character and his music and his whole package and his whole look and everything just works really well as that like 1,000-yard stare kind of weird guy. And I think that'd be great. And he was a pretty solid wrestler, although he lost, of course, to Bronson Reed, who was also a great wrestler. There was some really good stuff. Grimes, Cameron Grimes, really impressed me. Swerve. I liked, what's his face? He became, it's down to Jordan Myles and Cameron Grimes. I really like Myles, but he's just such a goody smiley guy. Well, you watched, right? Like he's just grinning like he's happy to be there, but he's just such a goody. I don't know. There's just something about him that they could make him like a Bo Dallas type character where he's just like, hey, everybody, it's me. And then we're just like, Bo, you're too cheesy and happy. You know, that could work maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean, getting back to Dexter Lumis, I loved him as Sam Shaw in TNA.
Oh, okay.
He was a stalker character in TNA.
Oh, there you go.
Impact. So, but yeah, no, talking about Cameron Grimes and Jordan Myles, of course, they operated in the independent circuit as Trevor Lee and ACH, respectively. I actually got the pleasure, and I'm glad they're in the finals. I had the pleasure of seeing these two wrestle at AAW here in Chicago to a 60-minute Broadway, which is a draw. That's what we call in the wrestling world. So it was a 60-minute draw. Ran out of time.
Wow.
And it was one of those where it got to like 20 minutes. I'm like, wow, this is a long match. 30, 40. I'm like, oh, they're going to go 60. And at that point, I kind of knew they're going to drag this out. But I saw one of the best. It was one of the best matches ever. And it was a Broadway.
That's cool.
Complete draw. So yeah, to see them again, I don't know if they'll do the same thing and just sort of have then Triple H come out and shake both their hands. And that's sort of the, as far as their genesis, their entrance upon into NXT. But no, Trevor Lee, he's a second generation wrestler. He's been in the ring, I think Nigel McGuinness said, since he was like 2 years old. His father passed away about a year ago. He was a wrestler and promoter. Actually, he was the founder of Omega. It was Jeff and Matt Hardy. That's sort of the federation they started with. So yeah, Trevor Lee, he's got some strong roots into the wrestling industry. Yeah, and Jordan Myles, formerly known as ACH, I got the chance to see him wrestle all the time in AEW. Terrific worker, really well conditioned. He does kind of have that smiley thing, but I think it works for him. And it's one of those things where I remember in the independent circuit, we'd be go ACH, go ACH. Again, we felt like we were cheerleaders because he was a cheerleader. And we're sort of giving him that power to do so. So I think it works for him. And Trevor Lee is a heck of a heel, although they sort of made him more of kind of a hard-hitting guy right now. Kind of sort of playing a tweener. But no, I mean, this is going to be a great match, and I'm glad it's going to be an NXT TakeOver. I'm really excited for the exposure they got. These are two, I shouldn't say young guys, but they are younger, and they got their whole wrestling careers ahead of them. And this is a chance for them not only to keep that integrity up with NXT, but also huge opportunity for them to get in that spotlight. That match is going to burn the house down.
Yeah, I binge watched it all yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is great.
Well, it's a great storyline, and I really liked how they were able to incorporate so much talent from the Performance Center. And it was essentially, it was a good way to sort of do a showcase, a head count, and a debut 8 guys at the same time. I thought it was pretty ingenious, to be honest. Yeah. Speaking of a lot of talent coming our way, AEW, All Elite Wrestling, Tuesdays, October 2nd.
Yeah, it's coming. History in the making, baby.
It'll be a good show, too. Yeah, they're going to have Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. They're taking on Chris Jericho and two mystery partners. Who do you think that could be?
One of them's going to be Forklift, clearly. No, with AEW, you got the buffet wide open.
Right, because there's not...
I feel like they have to have at least one big new surprise. I'm not going to say CM Punk or something stupid like that, but it's going to be some big surprises at least.
Well, it's got to be a huge surprise.
It's got to be something big.
You have to remember, this is considered one of their biggest shows yet. It's going to be in Chicago, and just a month later, well, now, I guess I'm talking about All Out, but just a month later, the TV show starts. So there's something's going to have something huge is going to happen at the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
To get people to tune in.
The show,
but I mean, the show itself, the very first show, they're going to crown the first ever AEW Women's Champion.
I saw that, yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how they do that. I'm going to assume they're going to go with Awesome Kong, maybe, just because of how she sort of cross-promotion with Glow and all that. But there's a ton of talent. Of course, I had mentioned Kylie Ray earlier. But yeah, there's not really any specifics about that, if it's a tournament or a battle royal or what they're going to do. But
it's pretty vague.
Yeah. But, that's the thing. If it's a 2-hour show, you could potentially have like a small tournament. Have a battle royal. Yeah. The remaining 4 then have a tournament throughout the night, or the remaining 4 have a fatal 4-way. Who knows? They could really go a couple different ways with that. But they got to make it big. If this is going to be the first ever AEW Women's Champion, I mean, and there was essentially what it could be, actually, now that I think about it, it could be like that 21 Battle Royal.
Oh, okay.
That they had for the men's title.
The buy-in there, yeah.
Right. So there you go.
Could be. I mean, if it's anything like any of the other stuff they've done, they're going to handle it with the weight and the gravitas that it needs to be handled. Like for the men's belt, they got Bret Hart. You can't.
That's actually a really good point. Who do you think is going to introduce the title?
Alundra Blaze, maybe. Trish is tied up, obviously. I'm trying to think. Not Lita. Lita's probably going to be appearing at some WWE events soon, according to rumors. Who else is like some real luminaries?
Lita is actually someone I would have thought of.
Yeah.
But that's a really great question. Wow, I'm actually stumped because, I mean, Lita is sort of the one I would go with in this because the other thing is she did introduce the other title before. She introduced the actual women's title.
That's right.
In WWE, so there's that. But yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, hit us up on the Hotbox, joshtalkwrestling@gmail.com.
Yeah,
love to hear your thoughts. That could be a whole episode right there.
There you go, yeah.
But you're right. It's got to be someone in the upper echelon, a legend, perhaps a Hall of Famer. You know, actually, what I might go with, I might actually have Miss Jackie do it.
Oh, Jackie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I might have her do it, you know?
Yeah.
So, but
yeah,
we'll
She's
see.
not
But
much
again,
of a speaker, but
right, but you know,
but just her
honestly,
presence there.
Yeah, right, exactly. You know, and so yeah, it has to be. It could just be something straight and sweet to the point.
Right.
But I think having her present there,
right,
that would really, I think, that would I think elevate the title.
That would give it the weight it needs. Yeah,
cool, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a great time to be a wrestling fan. We mentioned this before. This is gonna be a hot fall. Here we are, August.
Oh, yeah.
2 months from now, we're gonna have Monday Night Raw. We'll have Friday Night Smackdown on Fox, and then we'll have as far as AEW as well. And the interesting thing is, it sounds like they're gonna keep the brand split, and they're not going to use as much wild card.
Well, it seems like the wild card's dead from what I'm seeing.
I mean, the rule itself, I think they've gone past the 4. I feel like I've seen more than 4. It just kind of, it sort of reminds me, like, if you've ever been to, like, the Halloween parade here in Chicago. It starts off, there's all these great costumes and whatnot. It starts getting to the very end, you can tell people jumped the gate. And they're just, like, walking through, like, just being assholes about it. That's where I kind of feel like they're heading with the wild card. It's like, okay, just kind of do what you want. There are no rules. Sort of go between the brands, where they had very specific rules of, like, only 4 at a time. Well, first 3, and then Lars Sullivan made it 4, blah, blah, blah. But you know, again, it's like, at this point, why even have a draft? Why even?
What's the point? Yeah.
Right. Why? I mean, if anything, if you want to move people back and forth, I'm telling you, go the free agency route. If you hold a title, you're a free agent. You can go in between the shows. But I don't know. It seems like that they're not going to do it. But then I'm pretty sure that's what Fox wanted, was to have this type of wild card rule, because they wanted wrestlers to appear on both brands. Or their brand specifically.
I mean, they probably wanted to do that to try and bolster ratings, and shit, it ain't working, man.
Well, you know, it ain't. And I think that's a huge issue. But actually, I take it back, because the ratings have not been as bad.
I guess they've recovered.
They've gotten better
slightly, right?
Well,
but it's still really in the dumps.
Well, it's not Monday Night Wars. That's for sure.
No, that's for
sure. It's not up there. I mean, they're not getting those types of ratings. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see where they go with this. But yeah, it's interesting. I sort of heard one thing with Vince McMahon, then the other from Fox, and so we'll have to see how they play it off. But yeah, again, it's gonna be a great fall.
I mean, yeah, either way, it's gonna be interesting. Maybe one day we'll look back and we'll say, well, we were talking about that on that podcast, and little did we know that this was the start of new Monday Night Wars and the whole revolution. This is gonna be an exciting time.
Well, do you think Raw and SmackDown's getting better?
I do. Well, at least recently. Like this last episode of Raw was pretty awesome, and then this episode of SmackDown was really pretty great.
Yeah,
but it doesn't seem to be trickling down to the ratings. Apparently, like the ratings for this last SmackDown was 1.9 mil.
Well, it's gonna take some time. They got to be consistent.
Well,
you can't just have a couple good weeks, and that's
the thing. And apparently, they just fired two of their head writers recently.
Right.
So I don't know what that means exactly. If that
well, they've been around since 2014. These are guys that have been around since like 5 years or so.
Well, like here's the problem with that. Here's the problem with that always. Like, you can have your head writers and they can have experience and they can write these brilliant things and do this brilliant bookings. At the end of the day, like, Vince is going to rewrite the episode if he wants to. So it's so sad. It's like saying, I'm the best underwater sandcastle builder, like it's just it's a sinking ship. You're polishing the brass on the Titanic. Because, I'm sure, like, a lot of them, after a while, it's very disheartening, because you're just like, well, I think this is brilliant and this makes sense and blah, blah, blah. And then Vince will just be like, no, I don't like it. Change it. I'm going to change it 2 hours before the friggin' show. It's just...
Yeah, or during the show, maybe.
Yeah, so, like, I don't know. Whatever they're doing on these last two, this last episode of Raw and this last episode of SmackDown, whatever you're doing, if that means having no head writers or whatever, keep it up, because it's worked out really well.
I think it's Bischoff and Heyman.
Yeah, I mean, you think Bischoff's already stepped up into a creative role?
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly. I mean, we called this out actually before.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be kind of more of a producer role, a coordinator between the network and sort of creative. Mm-hmm. But I even mentioned this too. I'm like, there's no way. It's the guy who's beating Vince McMahon in the Monday Night Wars. There's no way they're not just going to let him go out to pasture, just be a coordinator. No, he's going to be running stuff.
Yeah.
And I knew that it would take him a while to get his feet wet. And I also don't think they wanted to start him off by saying, hey, Bischoff's taking over creative. By having him sort of ease into this, fans have, I guess, I don't want to say lowered expectations, but if you heard Eric Bischoff suddenly is running SmackDown, you would be like, oh my gosh, it's going to be the best SmackDown ever. And then you'd be let down. This way, by easing into it, fans are understanding, slowly get into it. But I think the TV is getting better.
I think so. Well, you had mentioned how Bischoff had mentioned that he's got to kind of relearn TV and start to...
The fans Fans are different.
Yeah.
TV's different.
Yeah, you're certainly not going to hand over the reins entirely to him immediately. But I think he's maybe starting to get his feet wet there. I mean, even if he wasn't supposed to be creative, you know that he couldn't stay away. He's that kind of guy.
Well, bottom line is, for better or worse, Bischoff ran WCW, Paul Heyman ran ECW.
Yeah.
Now, financially, where WB can help them out, and they both, I think, fell apart there.
Yeah.
If they don't have to worry about the money, this is
Yeah.
actually a good role for them, I think.
Oh, yeah.
They ran ECW and WCW maybe into the ground, but they still ran it nonetheless.
Right.
And it gave WWE a fight,
Right.
So I think having these two is what's actually improving wrestling.
Makes sense. Why not build that dream team?
Yeah.
We had talked about this actually way back when we did a what if.
Yeah.
What if Vince and company had passed
right.
away?
That's right.
And part of the dream team was we said Heyman, they'd get Bischoff, they'd get some other
People
folks.
step up, yeah.
People would step up, and here we are. So it seems like it's paying off. I hope it keeps paying off. It's so far so good.
But they are legends, of course. But speaking of legends, Undertaker signed a contract. What's up with that, man? A big old contract.
A lifetime contract.
Well, this is a guy when he was accepting non-WWE bookings, he was getting paid $25,000 an hour.
Whew.
Not only getting it, but being well booked for it. So Vince McMahon basically blank checked him, said, what is it going to take? And so from what I understand, it's not per se a lifetime contract. What I think it could be is, and I mentioned this before, where most wrestlers are kind of like on a 1, 3-year or a 5-year contract. Very seldom do you come across a 10-year contract where it's like, Randy Orton has one, John Cena has one, I would imagine Brock Lesnar has one. Maybe now, I don't know, with the whole UFC thing, maybe he did sign a 10-year contract, but guessing Brock Lesnar's probably closer to a 5-year. But Bret Hart had a 20-year contract, which is kind of the whole start of the Montreal Screwjob. I actually think they might have signed Undertaker to a 20-year contract. So I don't think it's a lifetime per se contract, but I bet it's 20 years, and I bet it's to wrestle here and there. He wrestled recently, and I mean, he's going to get paid. He was getting paid about $1 million a year to wrestle once on WrestleMania. I don't know. I guess what they're probably paying him is honestly $10 million a year, just like John Cena.
Okay.
John Cena is the highest paid wrestler of all time at $10 million. Before it was Brock Lesnar at $8 million. I guarantee you, Undertaker said, "Give me $10 million a year, I'll stay with you."
No more
Why
StarCast.
not? I mean, no more StarCast, but $10 million, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. I mean, Undertaker was always a company man. Like,
yeah.
There was always rumors that he was considering jumping to WCW back in the day. But I think that was probably it. Like, since then, he's been solid with them, so it makes sense. I mean, the 20 years is it might as well be a lifetime because it's the rest of his wrestling career.
That's right.
And then beyond that, we knew he was going to become a WWE Legends contractee and all that stuff. So this isn't super
Hall of Famer at some point.
Yeah,
too.
none of this is surprising.
Yeah,
I mean, he's on the Rushmore of WWE.
Right.
Period. There's no doubt about it.
That's actually a great idea. We had our WWE Hall of Fame conversation, a couple podcasts. What if they actually did have their own Rushmore there?
That'd be awesome.
Have like maybe Bruno Sammartino, Undertaker, Andre the Giant.
I could see that. John Cena probably would.
John Cena would have to be part of it. The Rock would probably be part. Well, now we have 5, but it's a WWE Rushmore, so it could be whatever.
More faces. Yeah, I mean, there's too much. There's too much to narrow it down to. What is it? 4?
Right, 4.
Yeah,
well, then you also think about it too. Like, let's be fair. I mean, there's a lot of women who helped out as well too. So I mean, like, they were talking. It could be.
You need a pretty big mountain.
Yeah, exactly. So, but no, it's interesting to say with Undertaker. Of course, he's going to wrestle till the day he dies. Speaking of Harley Race, rest in peace, man. That's, the king, man.
It's too bad. Harley Race has passed away at age 76. The innovator of the flying headbutt.
That's right. There was this is back when Randy Orton was a legend killer, the whole legend killer gimmick, and there was he was basically talking down to Harley Race. Harley Race was basically sitting in the front row. Just he's a little older at this point, he can't wrestle.
Sure. Just
by him sitting in the front row, looking lazy as hell, he actually looked like a complete badass. No one else could do that. Be old, just sit and slouch down in a chair and look like a badass like Harley Race.
He just had it.
Yeah. Well, he was just, that's the thing,
Always.
dude. Oh, yeah, dude. Long live the king, man. Yeah, and our hearts go out to the family and friends of Harley Race. And of course, all the fans of Harley Race and really all the wrestling fans. He's one of those guys that I've never heard a bad thing about. I mean, okay, he's a heel for a lot of his career, but you never actually heard, Harley Race is overrated or anything.
Oh, no.
I've
heard stories that he would prank people, pull ribs all the time. He was one of those guys that, the wrestling world has lost a true luminary.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, long live Harley Race. But yeah, other than that, what else you got for us, Josh? Anything else?
Everybody, like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Send us a message at joshandjoshtalkwrestling@gmail.com. What's on your mind? tell us. Tell your friends. Tell your mailman. Sign up your dog. Give him a YouTube account and have him sign up for JJTW. But other than that, I'm pretty good.
Oh, all right. Well, thanks a lot, y'all, for tuning in. Take care of each other in the meantime, and be cool.
Good night, everybody.